all hell just broke loose in the House Judiciary Committee, where Pam Bondi, Donald Trump's stooge attorney general, just completed her testimony. It was utterly humiliating for her. Frankly, it was utterly humiliating for the United States. Let me show you what went down first. I'll show you as Democratic Congresswoman Ballant cross-examines Pam Bondi. Watch as Pam Bondi just flails and tries to attack Ballant. Let's play this clip.
Who is Chris Meiselas?
Was the president aware? Please stop talking. It is not your time to ask questions. It is not your time. I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chair.
One second.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Vermont.
Was the president aware of Secretary Lutnick's ties to Epstein when he chose him to lead the Department of Commerce? Was he aware?
Chris Meiselas was a Border Patrol agent.
Okay, so I'm going to conclude that the president, in fact, did know about his ties because he was the next door neighbor.
Shame on you.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
You're
this
from
is
a tiny,
pathetic.
beautiful
This is
state.
pathetic, Mr.
Committee
Chair.
will be in order.
I am not asking trick questions here. The American people have a right to know the answers to this. These are senior officials in the Trump administration.
More from Congresswoman Ballant right here. Let's play it.
To know the answers to this. These are senior officials in the Trump administration. This is not a game, Secretary.
I'm Attorney General.
My apologies, I couldn't tell. By 2008, we knew that Epstein was a convicted sexual abuser. And we now know that Lutnick went to Epstein's Island in 2012. How was that not a deal breaker for the president? And why aren't you asking questions of the Commerce Secretary about what he saw when he was at the island, which he lied about not ever going to? Why are you not asking these questions?
Next, you have Congresswoman Ross cross-examining Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi. And note that Pam Bondi claims that she didn't even know that Ghislaine Maxwell was transferred from a facility in Tallahassee to Club Fed with VIP treatment in Camp Bryan, Texas. Sounds like perjury to me. Let's play this clip.
General Bondi, does a convicted sex offender like Ghislaine Maxwell deserve special treatment and and privileges in prison? Yes or no?
Let me be crystal clear on this. No. And
Thank you.
let me keep going. No, let me keep going.
Perfect. Well, I
did not know she was being transferred.
I asked you yes or no.
She was not transferred to a lower
Mr. Chairman,
level.
please stop the clock and remind the witness of the rules. One rule she needs to understand
and I'm glad
here.
that we're agreeing. So when we're agreeing, we can move on to some other things.
When
but
we're
I
not
want you
agreeing,
to know that every time she does get these perks, and it's been publicly reported, that the folks she's abused, the survivors who are sitting here, they see themselves as being denied justice. They feel re-traumatized. And I'm glad that we agree on that. But she should not be in that prison. And she needs to be moved back to a maximum security prison as soon as possible. But what she has told another committee here is that she won't cooperate with them unless she gets clemency from Donald Trump. It's just crazy to consider that she can be wielding this kind of influence within the administration. But that begs the question, who ordered her to be transferred to the minimum security prison that she was ineligible for?
And we heard from Democratic Congressmember Ted Lieu, who cross-examined Bondi. Let's play it.
Former Prince Andrew, Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those files.
I'm reclaiming my time. I got your answer. You said there's no evidence.
Trump asked
Mr. Chairman, please stop the clock. Stop the clock.
The legislation. This is
Time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you, here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop the limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell. So should the men who patronized his operation. And as we sit here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
The gentleman has expired.
Then you had Congressmember Goldman clearly getting under Pam Bondi's skin by just bringing out the facts and the receipts. And Pam Bondi tries to play the victim here, and she's like, "Stop yelling at me. Stop yelling at me." Here, play this clip.
These are obviously improper redactions.
Well, and let me stop for a minute.
I'm talking.
If they're not privileged,
quiet.
Don't yell at me. If they're not
Mr. Chairman, would you stop the clock? This is on your time. It's not on Mr. Goldman.
They're not
Even though you used your improper redactions.
You'll like my answer.
To continue.
More from Congressmember Goldman right here, who points to the survivors who were standing there who have received zero communication from Pam Bondi or anybody at the DOJ, as the DOJ defames the survivors, tortures the survivors, maliciously leaks the names and personal identifying information of the survivors. And then Goldman's like, to all the survivors who are out there, would you still want to speak with Bondi despite all the things she did with you? And they all raise their hands, yet Bondi refuses to meet with them. Here, play this clip.
Ask them if that's true. Now, would the survivors and victims who are here please stand up one more time? Just by show of hands, how many of you or your loved ones actually have met with the Department of Justice and provided testimony and estimate and evidence? None. And of those of you who have not met, which is everyone, how many of you have reached out either individually or through a lawyer or representative to offer to provide testimony and evidence? All of them. And of those of you, all of you who have reached out, how many of you were denied or ignored by the Department of Justice? All of them. And despite the shameful and despicable efforts by Ms. Bondi and her department to intimidate you, how many of you are still willing to speak to the Department of Justice? All of them. Well, Ms. Bondi, it looks like you have some more witnesses to talk to.
Gentleman's time has expired.
And I yield back.
We will go to the good gentleman from North Carolina, Congressman.
Next, I really like the questioning of Democratic Congressmember from Colorado, Neguse. He was cross-examining Bondi on the fact that she eliminated the entire national cryptocurrency enforcement team at the DOJ. He utterly exposed her, and she's like, "I refuse to answer the question." Play this clip.
It was created after Watergate. I'm not asking a question, Madam Attorney General. The administration under which it was created was Gerald Ford. When you first started as the Attorney General of the United States, there were 35 people working in that office. There are now 2 people working in that office because you have gutted it. How many people work for the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team in the criminal division today?
Can I answer the question about Penn?
I've asked you a question. How many
You've
people
asked
work?
me a question, but you don't
How
want
many
an
people
answer.
work
I'm not
for the
gonna answer your
National
questions the way you
Cryptocurrency
want.
Enforcement Team? You won't answer how many
I'll
people?
answer Penn.
You.
Penn will not be
you know what?
weaponized.
You know what?
What's
Madam
funny
Attorney
about
General,
this?
I'll say to the chairman.
What's funny about this?
Chairman, you know what the answer is? And I think I understand
funny
why the
about
Attorney General
this?
does not want to answer the question. Because you eliminated the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team last year. So I understand why you don't want to tell the American people who works there.
Yeah, I
no one
understand
works
why
there
you don't want to
anymore,
talk about
Madam
Mohammed
Attorney
Solomon
General.
in
So,
your district.
In any event,
who
I would
murdered people.
Mr. Chairman, will you stop the clock so his time is not wasted by the way?
More from Neguse as he makes that point. Let's play it.
The General does not want to answer the question because you eliminated the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team last year. So I understand why you don't want to tell the American people who works there.
Yeah, I
no one
understand
works
why
there
you don't want to
anymore,
talk about
Madam
Mohammed
Attorney
Solomon
General.
in
So,
your district.
In any event,
who
I would
murdered people.
Mr. Chairman, will you stop the clock so his time is not wasted by
I've
the
been
witness?
very generous with allowing.
And here's Neguse again. Let's play this clip.
I've asked, Mr. Chairman, are not trick questions. They're not gotcha questions. They're actually basic questions about how the Department of Justice functions and the unwillingness of this Attorney General to answer them in good faith. When a member of Congress asks how many people work at the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team and the Attorney General refuses to answer it, it is not a coincidence. It's because she eliminated the team. Why? Because her boss, the President of the United States, is making money hand over fist, $1.4 billion over the course of the last year through cryptocurrency holdings. I think what is happening at the Department of Justice is a disgrace, Mr. Chairman, and I would urge you to gain control of this hearing. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Yeah.
Then you have Pam Bondi trying to attack Republican Congressmember Massey, who's behind the discharge petition with Democratic Congressmember Ro Khanna. Watch as Bondi's like, were you talking about Epstein before for the last 4 years? And Massey's like, you're the AG right now. Do your freaking job and stop covering up a child sex trafficking ring. Here, play this clip right here.
FBI. Did you ask Merrick Garland that the last 4 years? Did you talk about Epstein?
I am reclaiming my time. I'm glad you're asking about Merrick Garland.
You don't get to reclaim
because
time
this is bigger than Watergate.
When I don't answer a question the way
this
you
goes
want.
over 4 administrations. You don't have to go back to Biden. Let's go back to Obama. Let's go back to George Bush. This cover-up spans decades, and you are responsible for this portion of it.
And that's
now,
where the
I want to know at what point did the FBI and the DOJ decide that Lex Wessner was not a co-conspirator? Because our Epstein Files Transparency Act requires you, please put it back on the screen, please, to release the internal decision about whether to prosecute him or not, and it's not in the files, and it's not in the files for any of these other men.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
May she answer?
And
more from Bondi and Massey's interaction. Let's play it.
Respond, and then the gentleman can move to his next question.
It's my time.
Within 40 minutes, you asked me a question. Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out
where
of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
And we invited you in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get, you're a failed politician. You need to get on these matters.
Chairman, please restore his time and remind the witness of the rules here.
There is no credible information.
Next, I'll show you Democratic Congressmember Jamie Raskin, who asks a very basic question of Bondi. So Donald Trump's paying himself $10 billion by suing the IRS, and you as the DOJ are supposed to defend the IRS, and you're just going to cut a $10 billion check to Donald Trump, just stealing it from the taxpayers. And Bondi's like, oh, I can't answer that question. Here, play this clip.
But now he's suing the IRS for $10 billion. He's suing the IRS for $10 billion, which I think is around 80% of its annual budget, because his tax returns were leaked. And they were illegally leaked by a private contractor who actually is in prison now, Charles Littlejohn. But he wants $10 billion. Now, well, I want to ask you the question of whether you think it would violate the Domestic Emoluments Clause for you to settle that $10 billion case or any of the other claims that the president has made against the government. He himself has remarked, it's interesting because I'm the one that makes the deal, right? And he says, I kind of have to work it out with myself. Do you think it would violate the Domestic Emoluments Clause for the president to work out a deal from people who are his subordinates under his unitary executive theory to get money in one of these cases?
I'm not going to discuss pending litigation.
Okay, so theoretically you're saying because his privacy rights were violated in that tax case, and they were. I'm with the president on that. I mean, his Mar-a-Lago thing is ridiculous, but there's no doubt that his tax returns, despite the fact that he promised to release them, despite the fact that every other president released the tax returns, he suffered embarrassment when it showed that he hadn't paid taxes for several years, and he had a right for that not to happen. Now, I want to show
you this as Democratic Congresswoman Scanlon cross-examines Bondi about, can you provide us your list of entities that you consider to be terrorist organizations? And Bondi's like, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. Here, play this clip.
Will you commit to providing this committee with any list of organizations that you have recommended be designated as domestic terrorist organizations?
We will comply with the law in all matters.
Will you commit to provide this committee with your list of entities that you recommend be designated as domestic terrorist organizations?
I'm not going to commit to anything to you because you won't let me answer questions.
Okay, well then we do understand that your current position is that you have a secret list of people or groups that you are accusing of domestic terrorism, but you won't share it with Congress. And I'd remind you that when the U.S. government designates an entity as a foreign terrorist organization, it must report that to Congress and to the entity, because the government can make a mistake and the entity has the opportunity to contest it. So your position seems to be that if you falsely designate an American or an American organization as a terrorist group, there's nothing they can do about it. I think we get it. You don't want to answer the question.
No, you don't get anything regarding public safety.
Thank you.
Nothing.
Thank you for the insult. It's clear you didn't come to Congress prepared to answer questions that the American people have every right to have answered. But
more from Scanlon right here. Let's play it.
On September 25th, President Trump signed a memorandum known as NSPM 7, purporting to address domestic terrorism. But Americans across the political spectrum were immediately alarmed by the memo's blurring of the line between unlawful conduct and constitutionally protected speech and activity, as well as its call to investigate, prosecute, and dismantle groups that the president and Stephen Miller described without evidence as, quote, an organized campaign of radical left terrorism. Now, counterterrorism experts were further alarmed by the administration's singular focus on left-wing extremism, combined with the sudden deletion from the DOJ website of decades of research and law enforcement analysis, which had concluded that right-wing extremism poses the greatest terrorism threat to Americans. The president's memo broadly and vaguely links violent conduct to ideologies, and it targeted specifically anti-American, anti-Christian, and anti-capitalist beliefs, as well as, quote, hostility to so-called traditional American views on family, religion, and morality, end quote. President Trump has repeatedly and openly, however falsely, tried to brand his political opponents with these sentiments listed in his memo. But as you know, as a lawyer, holding beliefs that the White House disagrees with is not a crime. And the statute defining domestic terrorism requires criminal acts, not just thoughts and ideas. That's why legal experts, nonprofit leaders, religious freedom, and civil rights advocates immediately raised the alarm that the new presidential directive was a politically motivated attack on civil society designed to silence those who disagree with the administration. So, Ms. Bondi, Section 3 of that memo directed you, as Attorney General, to submit to the President and Stephen Miller a list of groups or entities whose members are engaged in acts that meet the definition of domestic terrorism. And then on December 4th, you directed the FBI to work with a variety of law enforcement entities to compile a list of groups and entities engaged in such acts by January 3rd, 2026, and to update that report every 30 days thereafter. So can we assume that you or persons under your direction at the Department of Justice have prepared that list of groups or entities who are designated as domestic terrorist organizations? And I just remind you, that's a yes or no question. Did you prepare the list?
I'm not going to answer it yes or no, but what I will say is I know Antifa is part of that. I will talk to you about that.
I'm reclaiming my time.
I asked 2025, an Antifa member was arrested in Minneapolis federal court for
my time. Did you have
a list? They ask a question and don't want an answer.
The answer is yes or no.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Pennsylvania. Gentlelady can proceed.
Okay. So, will you?
Yeah, you realize that Trump's DOJ, they've made a list calling organizations that they don't like. I know we're probably on the list as well. Domestic terrorists. Okay. That's what's going on, and great questioning by Scanlon. Next, I'll show you as Attorney General Bondi, says that Trump's name does appear countless times in what has been produced. Here, play this clip.
General Bondi, it's been reported that there were at one point 1,000 personnel assigned to the task of identifying and scrubbing Donald Trump's name from the Epstein files. Were those reports accurate?
I believe his name has appeared countless times in the documents
how many
that
people were
have been released.
assigned?
If I could finish, I'm going to read you the stats.
I just simply asked whether or not it was true that.
Okay, then just show us all the files. Show us the redacted files. Show us the unredacted files. Just show us everything. Then Bondi claims not to know what Jekyll and Hyde means. Play this clip.
Because you're not answering the question. You do a Jekyll and Hyde kind of routine around here. And I just want you to answer my questions.
What does Jekyll and Hyde mean? Can you explain that?
Well, it means you're nice to the Republicans and you turn like Hyde on Democrats. But let me ask you.
Oh, I like this moment a lot where Democratic Congress member Moskowitz points out that Donald Trump's name appears in the Epstein files more than Jesus's name or God's name appears in the Bible. And then Moskowitz pulls out a Trump Bible. Watch this.
Recently tells a House Oversight Committee that she wants clemency to release more names. Kash Patel under oath said Trump's name appears less than 100 times in the files. We now know that's not true. Trump's name appears more times in the Epstein files than God's name appears in the book about God. Okay, by the way, this is the Trump Bible. Move over, King James.
More from Moskowitz here. Let's play it.
Trump's name also appears more times in the Epstein file than Harry Potter's name appears in the 7 books about Harry Potter.
More from Moskowitz here.
Lutnick says that in 2008, he went to Epstein's home, says he had a massage table in the living room, that Epstein said he got one every day, that it was the right type of massage. He and his wife decide to leave and say they'll never be in a room with him again. Howard then says, I'm sure the Epstein stuff is all on video. He was the greatest blackmailer of all time. Well, how would Howard know that? But now the files are public, and in 2012, we find out that he and his family are on Epstein Island after Epstein pled guilty to state charges. I'm from Florida. I take my family to Disney World, not to Epstein Island.
And then Bondi was not liking those questions. And she's like, I think it's so inappropriate that you would hold up a Trump Bible. Okay, here, play this clip.
Now, Madam Attorney General, I have like 25 seconds left. So because I'm curious, and I'd like to see, flip to the Jared Moskowitz section of the binder. I'm interested to see what staff provided on the oppo on me. And because we're in the Olympics, I'm going to give it a grade. I just want to see how good it is. So give me your best one.
So first of all, nothing is funny about mocking the Bible and holding up a Trump Bible. That's what you did. You made a joke, and I find offense to that. That's all I have to say.
I want it from the burn book.
Shame.
I want it from the burn book, which is the best one. What you got?
Has expired. The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
Thank you. First, more from Congresswoman Ballant here, who said, we have all this evidence of senior Trump officials with ties to Epstein. And Bondi's like, I don't know what ties are. Here, play this clip.
There is. We have evidence.
Do you know who Chris Malin is?
We have evidence that 3 senior officials within the Trump administration have ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And what
does ties mean?
I can conclude from what you are saying that you have not talked to them.
What does ties mean?
I think Americans would be shocked to learn that you are not interested in talking with these officials who have ties to Jeffrey Epstein.
What does ties mean? Can you define that?
Across the world,
can you
prominent
define
men
ties?
who've been exposed in the files have resigned their jobs in disgrace. And that's a good first start. And that same
Disgrace
standard,
is not saying the word
this
Chris
same
Malin.
standard should apply here. And Americans want accountability.
Who is Chris Malin?
Was the president aware? Please stop talking. It is not your time to ask questions. It is not your time. I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chair.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Vermont.
More questioning between Ballant and Bondi obfuscating. Bondi's like, well, let's talk about Merrick Garland. And Ballant's like, just answer your freaking question. Stop everything former President Biden. Garland. You're in charge now. It's you. Every word is going to be Biden or Garland. Here, play this clip.
Didn't ask Merrick Garland anything about Epstein, not once when he was.
Weak sauce.
Also, I want the record to reflect that, with this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution condemning.
Oh,
is Jewish.
I
just want to be clear.
Do you want to go there, Attorney General? Or do you want to go there? Are you
belongs to the
serious?
gentleman
Talking
from
about
South
anti-Semitism
Carolina.
to a woman who
Lady
lost her grandfather in the Holocaust?
my time. I
Really?
reclaim my time.
Really?
The committee will be in
Reclaim my
order.
time.
Talk to Jared Wise about anti-Semitism.
The ranking member knows that.
Can I get like 30 seconds back, you know?
Yeah, I've been.
Ballant took
I think
30
the whole.
of mine.
Yeah. Ballant was great. Next, you have Democratic Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Here is what she said. Play it.
Salary while in office. The fact of the matter is that you will be remembered as one of the worst attorney generals in history. An attorney general who has prioritized obstruction over justice, corruption over the law, fealty to the president over loyalty to the Constitution. And Mr. Chairman, I will yield.
Gentlelady yields.
More from Crockett right here. Let's play it.
Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles. What's crazy about all of this?
More from Crockett right here. Let's play it.
You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting journalists than you are prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. In fact, your boss, the president of the United States.
And then I'll show one more clip of Crockett because I thought she was great.
Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. At least 5,000 files contains more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. For example, according to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump who spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her. Here's another example. This shows notes from FBI investigators that describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, "This is a good one." Now, I'm not saying.
And then we put this montage together of just the behavior of Bondi because it was so utterly unhinged. Take a look at this utterly deranged behavior right here. Let's play it.
There was one redaction out of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
4,700, and we invited you in. This
Show
guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get. You're a failed politician.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that she keeps going after President Trump, the greatest president in American history. And if they could maintain their composure, you don't tell me.
Yeah, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
You're a lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in.
With obsessed with Donald Trump. You have Trump derangement syndrome. All of you who participated in those impeachment hearings against Donald Trump, you all should be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P at almost 7,000. And the NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about.
Trying to intimidate and punish these ladies.
Your time is up.
Forward.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million. And thanks everybody for watching.
The truth is more important than ever. Check out our new Truth Over Lies collection at store.MeidasTouch.com. All 100% USA union made.